This episode is sponsored by Hollywood Casino at Charlestown Races in West Virginia. Featured entertainment includes Randy Houser on May 31st and Keb Mo on June 1st. Details and tickets at HollywoodCasinoCharlestown.com. Must be 21 to enter the casino floor and attend a show. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Ruth Moody of the folk and bluegrass group the Wailin Jennys brings her solo tour to the Ram's Head in Annapolis, Maryland on Tuesday, May 21st, followed by the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on Thursday, May 23rd. She joined me to preview her new solo album, Wanderer, and reflect on the Wailin Jennys' biggest hits from Longtime Traveler to Wildflowers. Hey, Ruth Moody. Hey, thanks so much for joining us on WTOP in DC.
You're so welcome.
Obviously, we're talking to Ruth Moody, of course, of the Wailin Jennys is, most famous for, but you're bringing a solo show here to the Ram's Head Annapolis on May 21st, and then also the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia on May 23rd. So 2 chances to see you. What can we expect from these intimate venues here? Is it going to be anything from your new album, Wanderer? Do you mix in any Wailin Jennys stuff, or is it a mix?
Well, yes, I released my record Wanderer on May 17th. So the show at Ram's Head will be my first show of the tour. And I'll be playing music from the new record and probably some old stuff too, but I'll be focusing on the new songs. And then the Birchmere is a couple nights later. It'll be my first time at both these venues. The Jennys have played at the Birchmere many times, and it's one of our favorite venues. So I'm really excited to be there with my own band this time.
Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. So it'll be your first time there solo and the first time, playing these songs off the new album too.
That's right.
Well, let's do a little bit of a deeper dive then in the new album. I really want to plug it. So it's called Wanderer. It comes out May 17th, as you said, right before these 2 shows here. So tell me about, is the lead single, what's it called? 17. Tell me about sort of what inspired that sort of a nostalgic heartbreaker song.
Well, I was living on Main Island in the Gulf Islands of Canada during the pandemic, and just sort of thinking about the past. We all had a lot of time at that point to sort of think about life and reminisce and analyze. And I think it just came from sort of thinking a lot about life and thinking about the past and sort of trying to figure out why certain things happen and what sort of gets us on the path that we're on, and that song sort of came out of that, those musings, and also I was in a really beautiful place in the world and just so inspired to write there, and so I got into a good writing practice, and that song came out of that. It was one of those ones that took some work. I had the first verse, and it came very quickly, and then suddenly I'd sort of like set myself up for quite a task because I had some interesting rhyme schemes, and so it was a really good exercise for me because I had this verse, and then I had to follow through and really, put myself to the test. So anyway, that's a little bit of background about 17.
Absolutely. Well, do something similar for Twilight. I would love to hear, because have you released that as a single yet, or I don't know if you have yet, but
No, that one comes out with the full record.
okay.
That one's an older song actually. And it's a love song. It's sort of about I guess what we go through when we the seasons, I guess, the cycles of love and sort of what happens when it becomes real. It's sort of the beginning stages, the romantic love, and then the sort of real work that comes when you realize, okay, I'm in this. This isn't just a this is for real. What's it going to take to make this work? So that was sort of an exploration of those different stages. And yeah, I kind of use the seasons to just as a metaphor for love.
I love it. I love it. Well, take us back to your very original season where I would love to know how you grew up. I know you were born in Australia, but you mostly grew up in Canada, right? Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, right? So how old were you when you actually moved from Australia to Canada?
My parents came back to Canada. My parents are Australian. I was born there. And they came to Winnipeg when I was 8 months old, I think, or maybe 9 months old. So I wasn't in Australia for long. I have been back there a few times, though, and have lots of cousins over there. So I definitely have ties. But I grew up in Winnipeg for the most part. And yeah, I, I forget. Did you ask what it was like growing up in Winnipeg?
Well, no, all I asked was when you moved, so you covered that. But I would love to know, how you got into music. I know, did I read that you initially wanted to be a teacher, maybe of like a literature teacher, but how did you veer into folk music? Like, how did that metamorphosis happen at a young age?
Well, it's a good question because my family is very musical. My mom is a music teacher and she taught us all when we were kids. But it was more, we were brought up with classical music. And so I didn't really discover folk music until later on. I was actually taking voice lessons and when you're in that stream, the goal is to become a classical singer, an opera singer, and I knew I didn't have that kind of voice. And so I discovered folk music largely through the Winnipeg Folk Festival, actually, a really great music festival. And it happens every summer in Winnipeg, and also through Celtic music. My voice teacher agreed that I didn't have an operatic voice, and started exposing me to traditional Irish and Scottish songs, and I really took to them and discovered that I had a real affinity for that kind of music, and so I started building up a repertoire of traditional songs, and then joined a Celtic band, and pretty soon started writing my own songs, kind of in a traditional vein, but then branching out eventually.
I love it. And did I also see their first band was called Scrooge McDuck? I love that.
That is correct.
With the breakthrough single, DuckTales a Woo. No, I'm just kidding. But I love that. I love that. So how then after that, if you're singing with Scrooge McDuck, how did you actually meet Nikki Maida and Kara Luff to form the Wailin Jennys there in '02?
Well, the Winnipeg music scene is very cool. There's a lot of collaboration and sort of cross-pollination between genres and a lot of resources for musicians. Um, and so I knew of them, and then I met them, and we kind of uh, did a lot of the same house concerts and that kind of thing. And at the Winnipeg Folk Festival, actually, I approached Nikki and said, "Hey, let's sing together sometime." Um, I had been touring with Scrooge for a number of years and kind of missed singing with women because I grew up singing with my sisters, and so I just really wanted to sing in harmony with two other women, and they said, "Yeah, that sounds great." And so we put on a show at a small guitar store called Sled Dog Music, and that's kind of how the Jenny started.
Wow. And by the way, the name is hilarious. Obviously, I'm sure you're a huge fan of Waylon Jennings, the legend. But I saw that he died that same year. Was that like in tribute to him, or was it like a not happy accident, bittersweet
No,
accident?
it was a bittersweet accident. In fact, we became a band 3 weeks before he died.
Wow.
And so we actually had people, thinking that we were a tribute band and wanting us to do his music. We actually had people coming to shows thinking that they were coming to see Waylon Jennings. It was a really interesting first couple of years because of of that. But yeah, I mean, we've never covered it. It was never an official, it was always an unofficial play on his name.
Right,
Um,
right. But
um,
I'm sure still a fan of his. What would be your favorite Waylon Jennings?
well,
You know, Dukes of Hazzard, Good Old Boys. I was always partial to Looking Back Texas.
that's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, we've actually talked about covering a Waylon Jennings song. We've just never done it. But
Wow, so
you've
the
kind of
Waylon Jennys have never covered Waylon Jennings.
no, but you've sort of reinstilled that idea in my mind. So
I feel like it's time. I feel like it's time. You know, it's been over 20 years. I was the reluctance to cover him, I guess, because of that. That odd coincidence where everyone thought, yeah, in the
yeah,
beginning,
we kind of wanted to get away from that, I guess.
right?
No, actually, I'm remembering we have never covered a song of his in entirety, but we did on a Prairie Home Companion show. Garrison Keillor had us doing a sketch where we sang a bunch of his songs. So technically, we have covered Waylon Jennings.
Yeah, technically, but maybe again someday. You never know, folks. You got to come to these shows. We'll see. All right. So yeah, so there was that first. I'm trying to catch everyone up. So there was that first self-titled album, Waylon Jennings in '02. Then it was 40 Days in 2004, and then Firecracker. I love. It was 2006, and I love that great song. My wife and I listen to it all the time in the car. Long Time Traveler. Tell me just a little bit
Oh,
about recording that one. We love that song.
yeah, that's a special song. I actually used to sing that song with Scrooge McDuck, and
The
it's
band, not the character, not the animation.
I have a lot of interesting ties. Um, yeah, and it just always stayed with me. And then when the Jennies formed, I brought it to the band, and so we arranged it. That was in the second incarnation of the Jennies. And yeah, we recorded that on Firecracker. Um, it's just a very beautiful, simple hymn-like song. And it actually was in the TV show The English recently. So a lot of people have discovered it. It's kind of had a bit of a resurgence for an older song of ours. It's kind of almost become new again.
Nice. Now you so to, did it so you said if you sang it in Scrooge McDuck, I guess that it pre-existed. Like it's an old song. Like how
Yes,
what was the
yes.
original? Do you know?
It's a traditional song.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember whose version I learned it from. It's not coming to me, but
It's
yeah,
been
I
around
can.
forever. It's that
It has
traditional hymn like it's been around a long time.
it. Yes, for sure. I think it comes from like the shape note music tradition. From yeah, I've got to remember this, but yeah, it's old. Let's put it that way.
Okay, it goes way back. But we love you. My wife and I love your old version.
Thank
And hey,
you.
you said that was around the time of the second incarnation. Do you mean that's because Heather Massey joined, or when? What do you mean?
There have been three incarnations of the Waylon Jennys. So Kara Luft was with us for the first one with me and Nikki. And then Annabelle Shavostek joined for the second incarnation. And then Kara was with us for about 2.5 years. Annabelle was with us for a couple years. And then Heather joined in 2007 and
Okay.
has been
So
with us
Anna
ever
was
since.
40 days in Firecracker, and then
And no,
Heather was there.
Kara was 40 days.
Okay.
Annabelle was Firecracker.
Okay.
And Heather Massey joined, and we made the live record, Bright Morning Stars and 15 with Heather.
Gotcha. There you go. Well, that catches up on all the Waylon Jennys albums there. You just mentioned them, but I do want to follow up real quick on 15 because another one that my wife and I love and listen to all the time driving in the car is your awesome cover of Tom Petty's Wildflowers. You know, you belong
Oh, thank you.
among the wildflowers. Yeah, talk about the key to doing a good cover like that. I mean, not even just a good cover, an awesome cover, maybe even better than Tom Petty himself. Hit it.
Well, we have always loved that song, and we arranged it, I think, in 2014. We started playing it. Actually, I remember very vividly now, the first time we ever played it was at the Birchmere. And and it got a great response, and we kept it as part of our live shows. And then I think, what was it? We went on hiatus for me to have my son. And but we really wanted to put a new record out, and fans had been asking for that song, and that's sort of what actually inspired us to make an album of covers. It gave us the concept for the idea, or sorry, concept for the album, and yeah, so that was, some songs are so good they don't really take a whole lot of thought. They just almost play themselves, and I learned it on the banjo, and our mandolin player at the time, our dear friend Adam, um, came up with a sweet mando part, and we had the vibe, and it just sort of it came together very quickly.
Well, yeah, I mean, and just I mean, we love Tom Petty, obviously, rest in peace, a legend, but the idea of the female harmonies on that, it just takes it to another level. It transcends.
Oh, thank you.
Did I hear you say, or did I mishear you that the Birchmere in Alexandria, Virginia, might have been the first time you ever tried covering it live?
That's right. Yeah.
Really?
We actually have a bit of a tradition at the Birchmere. We often try out new songs because the audience is so great, and they're just very, very vocal and very enthusiastic, and it feels like a very safe place to try out new stuff. And it became something that we do almost every time we're there.
Wow. Well, I love that little factoid. There you go, folks. I mean, we've been listening to that song forever. I didn't know you first tried it here in Virginia. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I heard you also mention, I want to follow up. You said, you have you just had a son. What, I don't know, how old, like 6 or something like that?
He's actually 7.
7. Okay. So
Yeah.
how has becoming a mother affected maybe your songwriting and that kind of thing? It has to open a whole new, possibilities of songs.
It definitely does. Yeah, it's I mean, of course, it's life-changing, and it opens up new parts of a person, and it certainly did that for me. And there are some songs on this new record that are probably, if not directly, indirectly inspired by that new chapter of my life. And of course, it affects things in some challenging ways too, because um, before pre-motherhood, it's almost like songwriting and music was my child. And I got to dedicate all my time to
Right.
music. And then of course, um, that changes once you have a child. You have about 10% of the time that you did for a while anyway. That's changing now.
Yeah.
Obviously, the fact that I'm able to go on tour for a couple of weeks without my son is testament to the fact that he's become a lot more independent, and not that he's staying home by himself. He would
Imagining
love that.
Home Alone, setting traps for
That
robbers.
that would be the way he would want it. The other day he put on his backpack and said he was moving out into the yard, and he was going to build himself a fort and live out there. So I think he would like that, but his grandma is actually going to come to look after him while my partner and I are on tour. My partner plays bass in my band,
Oh, nice.
um, so this will be the first time actually that we can do this in a very long time. We used to tour together before he was born, and then of course we had to uh, reconfigure things, and now for the first time we get to go on a tour that's, well, yeah, a run that's more than a couple of days long, without our son.
I love how you described that before your son was born, your songs were, your songwriting babies were your babies, but they don't require, you don't have to change their diapers. Maybe adjust the lyric here and there, but it's a whole different game now. Um,
They can be sometimes as obstinate, but
yeah,
but
probably.
generally not, yeah, not as not well, actually they are very similar. It is kind of a similar thing. You do have to kind of um really figure out what they need, and
They
work
wake
with
you
them.
up in the middle of the night too. Think about it. Those
They
song
do.
ideas come crying in the middle of the night. You got to wake up and jot down
Ab
crib notes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a pretty similar thing actually.
Well, there you go. There's a song idea for you for the next album. Well, cool. Hey, I really appreciate your, all the time you've given us. I just want to, if our listeners hear this interview and they want to come see it, let's say maybe they're like huge fans of the Wailin Jennys. I feel like that they were like probably the most popular thing you've been in. Well, maybe not Scrooge McDuck. All respect to Scrooge McDuck. But let's say there's Wailin Jennys fans hearing this, but maybe haven't explored, Ruth Moody's solo albums. Blue Muse '02, The Garden in 2010, These Wilder Things in 2013, or even this one, Wanderer. What would be a good sort of dropping in point? Is there one? I know you're going to say the new one, but plug an older one if you want. Like familiarize. What would be a good dropping in point to sort of discover your solo vibe?
I'm so excited about the new album. So I would say definitely listen to the new album. But that said, it's not out yet. So listen to the first two singles, and then I've got another single coming out this Friday, which is a really special song for me. It was actually written when I was pregnant. And it's a love song, and the Jennys have actually performed it a bunch. So
what's it called?
It might be familiar to Jennys fans. It's called The Spell of the Lilac Bloom.
The Spell of the Lilac Bloom.
And I recorded it with an amazing singer and songwriter and slide guitar player named Joey Landreth from the Brothers Landreth. He's from Winnipeg, an old friend. And his contribution is really, really beautiful. So that's coming out early May, I should say, I guess, for this interview. Yeah, so that's the newest single, and I would recommend dropping in there.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, Ruth Moody of the Wailin Jennys coming with a solo show here well, you'll have your band, obviously, but, let's see what Ruth Moody's all about songwriting-wise. It's Rams Head, Annapolis on May 21st, and then the Birchmere in Alexandria on May 23rd, where apparently you sang Wildflowers for the first time. I had no idea. That's awesome.
And I've never been to Rams Head, by the way, so I'm excited to play there for the first time.
It's a cool spot. They have a couple, I think they have venues all over. They have one in Baltimore. They have spots all over, but the Annapolis
I didn't know that.
Yeah, okay. But the Annapolis one is a little more I don't know, like a little more intimate, like more like the Birchmere, I would say.
Cool.
Well, hey, thank you for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jason.
Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Our theme music is Scott Buckley's Clarion. Remember to give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time.